It's going to be awesome because
Fabulous.
we are live, but we're going to restart it as if, you know what? It just didn't happen. All right, so let me do it this way. So everybody out there, right, watching live, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to A New Direction. My name is Jay Izzo, and oh, man, do we have a great show for you today. The book is The Art of Alignment with Art Johnson. I am telling you, I have read this thing from cover to cover. It is powerful. It is amazing. It is outstanding. I have got 30 pages of notes. We're going to keep Art here for at least a week. He is not getting off this thing, and we're going to have him here because I am telling you, it's fantastic. Look, folks, here's the deal, and Art's going to talk about it, all right? Here's the thing. Do you have a mission statement? Yes or no? Because you should. Okay, first thing is you should have a mission statement. Here's the thing, though. Do you know what it is? I don't care what your employee level is. Do you know what your mission? Can you recite it right now? And if you're a leader, do you know it? I'm getting a lot of nods out there that you have no idea what I'm talking about. You know, that's why we got Art here, because Art Johnson is the one who's going to set you straight. Art Johnson's the one who's going to make it right, because Art Johnson has got the #2 best-selling book from the Wall Street Journal right here, and he joins us. But before we get to him, let's do what we do every week, right? We are 4-part people. We are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual people. And I'm going to walk you through your training. You know, how are you doing? You know, right? We're in pandemic and we don't know where we're at right now. we aren't. You know, everybody's not sure where we're at, right? So what we try to do is we try to get you to try to think about in the past week, how have you been doing in the 4 areas of your life, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? So we rate you on a scale of 10. Actually, you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being miserable, 10 being outstanding when it comes to your training in each area. So when I say the physical area, what I mean is, if you could rate yourself on that scale of 1 to 10, how would you say you did on your exercise, eating right, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, right? You know, taking care of yourself physically. How would you rate yourself? Okay. And 5 is average. And by the way, the number doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is whatever your number is right now, is that what you do is you do something about it right now, right? Because if you're a 3, okay, you're a 3. Let's get you to a 3.5. What might that look like? Well, it may look like going to bed earlier. It may look like drinking an extra bottle of water. It may look like, you know what, putting the chips down. You know, it may mean, you know, stopping the soda, like Art's drinking water. See, this is what I'm talking about right here, right? All right, so on a scale of 1 to 10, that's your first number. Second number is your mental number, right? You want to increase your mental agility and your mental part of yourself? Read a book like this book. This book will grow you. It's about growth, right? The beautiful thing about Art's book is about growth. Whether you're a leader, whether you want to be a leader, whether you're an employee, whether you're a salesperson, it doesn't matter what your position, whether you're the janitor. And he talks about that too, by the way, right? Do you know your role? Do you know your how? Do you know how what you do fits into the bigger picture? Do you know how what you do is part of the mission? Right? That's part of your mental growth, right? Whether it's you're growing mentally, whether it's in your business or what you do, or whether it's in your personal life, how would you rank yourself in terms of actively participating in your growth mentally? Same scale, 1 to 10. All right, that's your second number. Third number is your emotional number. What do I mean emotionally? Well, I look at it in 2 ways, right? I'm a psychological professional, so we look at this in 2 ways. One is, you know, how well are you able to control your emotions under stress? How about when you're tired? How about when you're hungry? How about when you have all 3? Right? How well are you able to do? How about when somebody cuts you off in traffic? Right? How about when somebody? I think Art says something about that. Sometimes people will poke at you with words, right, and try to get you off balance. How well are you able to handle that? And then the second part of the emotional equation is, how well are you able to tap into and understand the emotions of others? Art talks a lot about empathy here in this book, right? Empathy is really, really important to the success of anybody. I don't care what you do, right? So how would you rate yourself on that scale of 1 to 10 when it comes to emotional? And then finally, the spiritual piece. And I know a lot of people say, I'm not real spiritual. You know what? We all are, right? You remove the physical, the mental, and the emotional. What you're left with is the spiritual. And here's the other thing. right? We all have faith in something. We all believe in something. We all believe that, something's going to happen in the future. That's faith. Faith is spiritual. Beyond that, though, you know what? We all have something that we run to when we're in trouble. Whether it's God or nature or meditation, or maybe it's alcohol. Sometimes it is. Sometimes, we self-medicate. Whatever that is your God. That is what you run to. And it comes down to two questions. How's it working and what do you need to do to change it? All right, so you got your 4 numbers. Those 4 numbers are like the legs of a chair. If the legs of a chair are uneven, guess what? Your posture's bad. At the same time, we want to bring those legs up together, right, to the right height, because if they're at the right height, they will help you eat at the table that allows you to be able to be successful in all parts of your life. Speaking of someone who's got his chair legs at the right height, and he's awesome. His name is Art Johnson. He is the CEO of Infinity Systems Incorporated, a management consulting firm where he helps leaders identify and rectify organizational misalignment. He and his firm created Orgametrics, which, by the way, I think it's orgametrics.net, a diagnostic tool that quantifies the degree to which employees of an organization have bought into its mission and vision. Really, really important. Previously, he implemented a strategic plan to improve alignment at Medtronic, the world's largest medical technology company, enabling it to grow top-line revenue by 13% year over year in a flat market. His new book, Art of Alignment, a data-driven approach to lead aligned organizations. He has a bachelor's degree from Drake University, and I know that university well, and a master's degree from the University of St. Thomas and St. Paul. Art Johnson is an opinion columnist for CEO World Magazine. You can follow him on Twitter and LinkedIn. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, and welcome for the first time to A New Direction, Art Johnson. Art, welcome to A New Direction.
Jay, thank you so much for having me.
You know what?
Looking forward.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you, this is an outstanding read. I have this thing so badly dog-eared, and I've got so much yellow all over this book. It was just an amazing read. And I am being completely serious when I say I literally have, 31 pages of notes. So I literally have 31 pages of notes. It was that good. Once I got into it, I couldn't stop. It was just an amazing read. So you've written something really valuable here, and congratulations on your number 2 spot with the Wall Street Journal.
I appreciate it.
So listen, I thought what we would do is typically I start with the book and we just walk in. I'm going to jump right into the 9 pillars of alignment, because I think we can kind of cover the first few chapters of the book, because the first pillar of alignment, which is in chapter 5, is mission and vision. And this is critical to everything that this book does, is the mission and vision. It is the critical pillar. Help us. I think people have an understanding what a mission and vision is, but you have taken this to a whole nother level. So help the business owner who is out there digging in, and the employee who is listening in all over the world. Help them understand why mission and vision is so important, what we need to have, and what does it need to be in order for us to be successful.
So, Jay, I can't tell you how often people confuse these 2 items, right? We talk about mission, we talk about vision, and for some they're confusing, but let's see if we can kind of differentiate them. At the start, a mission is directionally where the organization is trying to go. So in other words, what will the world look like if we are able to achieve our mission? What things will we see? What things will look differently? The vision is, what does that look like? How does that change? How does that impact others' lives? How does that impact the lives of the employees of the organization? What does that look and feel like? And how do we go about describing it? And what we're finding is that the degree to which an organization is clear on its mission, clear on its vision as to what the world will look like, it begins to get people to buy in. And the idea of selling that vision and mission to the broader employee base is the job of the leader of the organization, but it's a lot easier when it's clear. And so I think I've shared this with a number of folks, but I'll share it with you as well, Jay, and the audience. Quite frankly, I've spoken to, this was at Villanova. It was a graduate school class of 44 students. I asked a question, just straight out. And these are middle management folks that clearly should know the mission. How many in this room actually know the mission? In fact, I'll give $100 to anybody who can recite the mission of the organization for which they work. Only 2 attempted it. Only 1 was even close. Nobody got it. So it's not an uncommon thing for people not to necessarily be able to recite the mission, but the degree to which it's easy to recite, it's fully imbued in the thoughts and minds of the employees, is the cornerstone to success.
So, I- first of all, I love this because I coach a lot of businesses and business people,
Mhm.
and I run across a lot of times where they will have a mission statement where they themselves can't even recite it, and they created it because it becomes a lot of just really nice sounding words, or it's very cliche, right? But they really haven't really, I guess, made it their own. I mean, do you? I know that this is what you do. Do you have to go in sometimes and say, you know what? We need to reconstruct your mission statement because your mission statement isn't what you do.
So, Jay, I can tell you that, yes, I feel like doing that, but we have to be really careful with that because as an organization, we're in the space of measuring where an organization is and how aligned it is. The minute you start going in and trying to fix these things and then coming back and trying to measure it again, you're in essence grading your own paper. So you got to be really careful to stay in that and stay in our lane. So we do just that. We measure. Oftentimes leaders will ask, "Hey, what do you think about the mission?" And depending upon their receptivity, I might share some things, but I'll oftentimes point them in the direction of someone that can help them reshape it. Our mission is really straightforward. We want to be the standard of measurement for organizational alignment, and it's clear. Everybody in my organization knows what that is. They know everything that we do needs to be consistent with that, and everybody's dropping those oars in the water at the same time.
You make a quote here. You say the path to success for any organization begins with establishing the mission and vision. The purpose
Yeah.
of the mission and is to define the organization, what it's about, what it will do. And I think sometimes we get caught up into this is what we're about, but it's that second piece that you talk about is what it will do.
Right. And that's the vision piece, Jay, that I was talking about before, right? What will the world look like if we're able to achieve our mission? How will things be different?
Mm,
And being able to see that, it creates that sense of energy, right? And you can start to see where we've made progress. And so now when we celebrate our successes along the way, we get what's called momentum.
You talk about, in one of the subtitles of this chapter is keep the mission clear and simple. I find that sometimes mission statements get overly complicated. Is that typically what you see too? Or
I do. That's so spot on. So the degree to which we can keep it clear, keep it front and center. I've seen people use them as screensavers on their computers. We use luggage tags back in my previous life, just to make sure that it stayed clear.
Yeah, I think that sometimes what happens with the mission statement is that, and you talk later on about that we can have gaps in the mission statement, and I know this is one of the pillars later on, and we'll dig into it more, but sometimes we just don't communicate that mission statement very clearly, do we?
That's it. So part of it is if you're trying to get people to lean in and everybody to buy into it, it needs to be clear. It needs to be language that's understood by everybody within the organization, and it needs to be reinforced.
So how important is the customer knowing your mission? I guess that's a question that I have for you. Is it important? Should the customer know your mission as a business?
They don't necessarily have to be able to recite the mission, but they should be able to feel the experience of the mission.
Mm.
So if you are truly carrying out that mission and it has the customer's experience in mind and it's reflected in the mission, then that customer should be able to raise their hand and say, boy, I tell you what, we certainly know it, we feel it, experience it every time we interact with an employee of ABC company.
Yeah, I just think that this is such a critical. It's the reason why you put it first. I have to believe, because if we don't start there, I think we're doomed.
Yep. We got to have a roadmap.
Yeah, I think we're doomed from there. So let's move on to chapter 6, leadership, because this book, by the way, The Art of Alignment, number 2, Wall Street Journal bestseller. By the way, available Amazon bookstores near you. Get yourself a copy because it really is going to help your business. In chapter 6, called leadership, which is the second pillar that you bring up, I found that your book was a lot about leadership. I mean, because I think there's a phrase that showed up every time you would bring up another topic, and it would be leaders are responsible for. That's the entire phrase. Because, and I think this is the challenge of leadership, isn't it? Is that I think we want to be leaders, but we don't want to necessarily have the responsibility of leaders. And you really, really point out here in the book that leadership is a tremendous responsibility. It takes a lot of courage.
Absolutely. I think we confuse that with the need to have a blowhorn in our hand, to be as loud as we possibly can, to be the smartest person in the room, to be able to answer every single question. Every single one of those statements is a falsehood. The leader of that organization has to be clear on what that mission is. They've got to live that mission. They've got to sell the vision throughout the organization, and they've got to be outstanding listeners. Oftentimes, when somebody asks a question of a leader, oftentimes they're the smartest person in the room, or they feel like they are, and they feel compelled to answer the question. Unfortunately, when they answer the question, we don't get the benefit of all other possibilities, because now that they've answered the question directionally, that's where we're going as an organization. So what I've challenged leaders to do when I've had the opportunity to speak to groups about this specifically is to say, it's okay not to answer questions. It's okay not to know. In fact, oftentimes, even if you do know, maybe suggest that you may not have the answer. So somebody asked me a question, I'll never forget it at Medtronic. One of my directors, you might have read it in the book, right? But one of my employees asked me a very direct question. Art, would it be okay if we did this? And my answer was, I don't know. What other options do you have? Right? So what I'm doing, Jay, is I'm expanding the possibilities, because this individual might have come up with an idea that I never thought of. But the minute I answer that question, guess what? We're off and moving. So as leaders, we just have to back off. It's okay not to answer the question. What we're trying to do is get the best answers out there on the table, get everybody leaned in and participating. And you can only do that by asking effective questions instead of trying to answer every question that comes across your path.
Oh, but Art, you're challenging some of the status quo of leaders, because what you're saying is they don't have to have all the answers, and they feel like they do, I think, is the first thing. Now, I'm being cynical here. You know that, right?
I know that.
It's okay. So because that would mean lowering your pride to say that you don't have all the answers, man.
Right.
I mean, that's still, as much as I would like to think that we are growing beyond that in business, there's still a lot of pride in leadership.
But here's what you lose with that pride, right? So you go and you answer that question, you can stick your chest out and feel really good about the fact that you knew the answer to the question. But unfortunately, there might have been a better solution that we missed out on. Secondly, when we go and implement what it is that I suggested, and when I go to recognize the person that actually did the implementation work, and I recognize them for that work, who am I really recognizing? All they did is carry out what I asked them to do.
Right.
So the minute we can push decision-making down, we can foster risk-taking, we listen to other thoughts and ideas, and then we implement these things. When we go to recognize them, the genuine nature of that recognition is pivotal to the organization. So then we get that sort of rinse and repeat. Now we get people come with more ideas. It fosters this idea of creativity. Next thing you know, we've got all kinds of different ideas coming to the table. And then our recognition events become meaningful versus that soft little golf clap that we oftentimes hear when somebody gets recognized or something. So all these things intimately, they tie together, Jay, and it's important. And it all begins with that leader, like you said, the mission, but then that leader has to be one of those people that is asking more effective questions than answering them. I'll give you a quick example. My dad was a drill sergeant in the Army, and it's kind of funny. I remember 15 years old, I cut the grass, and I was super proud of, whipping through the yard real fast because I wanted to go do something else. So I came in and got ready to change to take off. He said, "Hey, Art, let's go take a look at your work." So we went outside, we looked at it, and he could see a spot that I missed, a little strip there. And he looked at me, and I'll never forget the question. He said, "Art, is this your best work?" And I looked at the strip, I looked at him, and I said, "No." So then he asked me the next question, which was, "When do you think we'll see your best work?" So here we are at home, right? This is your family, those that you love. When will we see your best work? And I fired that lawnmower up right away and got out there and finished the rest of that. But by asking questions in an effective manner, we can get the outcomes that we want. But the minute we become a leader that's automatically driving success by forcing things on people, being the smartest person in the room, answering all questions, stealing the glory. You got to put that pride aside, man.
His name is Art Johnson. The book is entitled The Art of Alignment. You're listening to him here on A New Direction. Folks, listen, I have got two outstanding sponsors. Epic Physical Therapy is one of them. They work with professional athletes, they work with up-and-coming athletes, and then they work with people like me, right, who think they're an athlete as we grow older and we get hurt. Or we just don't move the same way we used to, or things ache like they did when we were younger. So, but look, you know what? They work with all of it, right? It's because they're an elite team. And at Epic Physical Therapy, they will provide you with a customized treatment program tailored to your individual needs. Because what they understand is that they need to treat the entire body as a functional whole, not just your symptoms or your injury. So when you're ready for your epic relief, your epic recovery, and your epic results, don't look any further. Go to epicpt.com. That's EPICPT.com. And Linda Craft and Team Realtors for over 35 years. They have been helping people all over the world, and they do that because they understand the power of relationship. They understand that relationships are the key to doing business. It's not, P&Ls are not profits and losses. P&Ls are people and lives. And she understood that, and she took that approach. And so for over 35 years, her and her team help people sell their home or buy their home. So when you're ready to start your journey, your home journey, start with Linda Craft and Team Realtors. You can learn more by going to lindacraft.com. That's LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with Art Johnson and his number 2 Wall Street Journal best-selling book, The Art of Alignment. And by the way, check him out on LinkedIn, Twitter. Also, I check him out on YouTube. One of the things I did is I went and I looked at some of your YouTube videos, and man, you're really good. Wow. I mean, really thought-provoking, just things that you go, oh man, I got it. Okay, Art, I understand that this was 2 minutes and 46 seconds, but man, you got me thinking here, you know? I mean, so I really encourage people to find you on YouTube because you really have some really, really great stuff going. I want to talk something about leadership because you said something in leadership, in the leadership piece that really got to me. You talk about trust and integrity. And you talk about that a lot of people think that integrity is trust, but you have a whole different take on that.
I do. First of all, I believe that business moves at the speed of trust. And so the idea of making sure that you have trusting, meaningful sorts of relationships is pivotal to any and all organizations. And so I define trust as synonymous with the degree of predictability. In other words, if I can predict what you're going to do, I can trust you. If you are unpredictable, I can't trust you. And so I tie trust and predictability together. Integrity speaks to what values you have versus the values I have. They may differ. And so if I tie trust to you having the same values I have, I'll never trust anybody. So it all comes down to the degree to which I can predict what you will do. And if you are unpredictable, I can't trust you.
Yeah, I just found that so interesting because it's not the typical thing that's said. Matter of fact, when I first read it, I went, no, you don't really mean that, do you? And then when I read what you just had said, I was like, oh man, that makes so much sense because the truth of the matter is we do trust predictability regardless of what it is, right? Bad or good.
Yep. We tie it to values. We tie it to integrity. And Jay, our values may differ. And the degree to which they differ, I cannot hold you accountable to trust when you're doing things that are consistent with your values. They may not be congruent with mine. And so the minute we can start to talk about and understand it, I can then begin to predict what you will do based upon better understanding your values. But I can't tie you to mine.
Is there, I'm setting you up here, so I'm putting the ball on the tee.
That's okay.
So is there one leadership style that's better than the other?
You know, I think it comes down to the organization and what the organization needs. Each organization's different. Each organization has different people, and they're also at different stages in the life cycle of a business or an organization. And so part of this is figuring out where it is, what the needs of the organization are, and being able to adjust your leadership style. Sometimes you got to get out in front. You have to have that skill set to be able to stand out in front, take those arrows, answer those difficult questions. But other times you need to be the one that's asking more provocative questions, getting the thoughts and ideas out on the table, being a more participative manager. And then the other thought, that I always spend a lot of time on is talking about this idea of being more of a shepherd, which is, how can I lead from behind? In other words, I don't have to be out in front. There are some people that are in the organization that are smarter, faster, more capable than I am. Let's let them lead this initiative. Let's get the organization behind them. My job is just make sure that we're all going in the same direction.
Okay, so I'm an old farm boy, okay? Town of 119 people. So the shepherd leadership style is not really talked about a lot. But no. it really isn't, because we talk a lot about servant leadership. There's the Ken Blanchard's 1 minute manager, of course, and command control. But the shepherd leadership style that you just described here, people do not understand that when it comes to sheep, the shepherd doesn't lead out in front. He's not really out in front of the sheep. He's kind of guiding them around. He kind of lets the dog do the rest of it, really.
Well, they've got what's called a bellwether, right?
Right.
And so how do we get behind that bellwether? Right. The bellwether's a true leader. They've identified the proper course that we should be taking. They move a little bit faster. And so let's make sure that we're all going in the same direction. That's really the role of that shepherd. And so it gives other people a chance to lead. There's energy that's imbued in the organization because of that. And we get the best ideas, and we move faster, and we're more capable and more nimble.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I'm passionate about this stuff, Jay. I'm telling you, man.
No, you got me. No, listen, I could tell just reading it, and then of course I hear it, which is thrilling for me, because I'm just like this whole shepherd leadership thing is just, I'm like, wow, that just is awesome. So one of the things that I know that you are really, we're kindred spirits in, is that we're big on measurement. So how do we measure leadership, or how should we measure leadership?
So there are, obviously that's one of the 9 constructs that we're kind of touching on. And there are a handful of questions that we ask in that space. What we're trying to find out from the organization is how they feel about leaders within. Do we feel as if the leaders within this organization espouse the mission and vision? And 1 to 10, 1 not at all, 10 completely. Your 1 through 6 is going to be your detractors. Those are the people that are saying, not so much. Your 7s and 8s are going to be those that are saying, pretty much, but to get that resounding yes, you need a 9 or a 10. And so all we're trying to do is find out how many 9s and 10s we have in each and every one of those categories to ascertain who is fully on board directionally with where we're trying to go.
You put a lot of responsibility back. I mean, here we go back to mission and vision, but it's so much responsibility on the leader to ensure that mission and vision is being really disseminated throughout the entire organization. And then it leads to us to chapter 7, which, by the way, is just such a beautiful, smooth transition, which is communication. Because the only way that leader can really get that mission and vision accurately out is through really good, strong communication. So let's talk about communication here as a building block for organizational alignment.
So if you think about communication, there's 2 components to it, right? There's the encoding and the decoding aspects of it. And so many times the fact that we feel like we've sent that message, we think that it's been received. Right. And that's not always the case. There are people that need to hear things 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times.
Right.
And so do you know how many times they need to hear it? Do you know the ways by which they need to receive the message? So some want to read it, some want to hear it, some want to talk about it. And so are we clear on what the needs of the organization are? And then there's this other thing called attenuation. The thing that we kept finding, Jay, in doing this measurement work was finding that the further individuals were away from headquarters, the more disconnected they were from the mission and vision. And that could be for a number of reasons. We don't do it like that out here. Or there's this thing called attenuation that takes place, which distorts the message. So part of the role of the leader is to reinforce it by resending the message, strengthening its signal, and then doing that over and over again until it gets fully decoded. And so that again falls back to the leader to find out. And part of this is done by effective feedback loops. Do we have effective feedback loops within the organization that tell us, hey, look, message is loud and clear. It's reflected in the work that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And thank you for checking in on us. And at that point in time, you get a chance to recognize that particular department, division that's way out on the other side of the country or world or whatever it is. And that just shows how reinforced that particular message might be.
You just made the statement that I found so fascinating, especially in light of where we're at today in the pandemic. You said, the further they were away, the more difficult. We're dealing with a lot of remote teams now. A lot of businesses are dealing remotely. We're seeing a lot of working from home. And I know this isn't, I'm asking you simply because I would love to have your opinion on how does that now affect the mission and leadership? I mean, because to me, it presents a number of challenges based on that research.
Its impact on teamwork is more challenging, right? Because a lot of this stuff is done via Zoom.
Right.
Its impact on communication is paramount. And so what we have to do is really take the time to have that individual connection with our direct reports. To make sure that, hey, we're on the same page. 2, we can trust one another, right? I know that when you go to cascade the message, I know that you're going to do an effective job of cascading it. You're not going to do that perfunctory exercise of, hey, we just got done meeting with Jay. Jay's got a bunch of ideas. Tomorrow it'll be something else. We'll take 1 out of the 5. We'll see where it goes, and then we'll just kind of go from there. Or another way to cascade that message is to say, listen, I left Jay's leadership team meeting. We got 5 great ideas. I'm excited about every single one of them. Let's spend this time thinking about how we're going to measure our success against each and every one of these as we go to deliver them back to the business. 2 way different ways of cascading the message, but it is pivotal in terms of from a communication standpoint that we are all on that same page. And the pandemic has made that even more difficult because we have to do a lot of this stuff electronically.
Yeah, it just occurred to me when I read that, I was just like, oh man, it does present some unique, certainly this presents some unique challenges in today's world that we have to really be aware of. And I think, just based on, what you say in your book, that, it's going to require even more of a leader to ensure that mission and vision is communicated more clearly, which means that you have to adapt. You have to adapt as a leader to this new way of doing work.
Amen. That is spot on. You have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to recognize what the needs of the organization are and pivot to that need. And what we're learning more and more is that there are some leaders that are just better than others at doing that. And so what we're able to do is quickly, in 10 minutes, we can tell you which leaders and which divisions are the ones that are really good at effectively cascading the message.
One of my favorite quotes that you have is you wrote the book, and I couldn't help but laugh, and I think my wife wondered why I was laughing reading your book, but I couldn't help it. It was by George Bernard Shaw. And he says, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it is taking place. And I couldn't, because it's so true. It's so stinking true that, we just assume that, it's there and it's happening, but it's such an illusion. And you talk about that we so often in business as leaders, we get too caught up in one-way communication.
Yep. I've pushed an email out to all my direct reports, and now I'm done. Right? It's that concept. I just told them, just look at your email, right? So oftentimes people aren't on their email, and so they don't get it. And sometimes in email, it gets lost in translation. And so it's important to have that conversation to make sure that it's clear as to what the expectations are. And also it requires some back and forth. So that's what we talk about the importance of feedback loops, Jay. I can't even tell you the importance of that.
So you did say something here about a few minutes ago that I think leaders, when it comes to communication, struggle with frequently. And that is, but Art, I've already told them one time.
Right.
Right. Well, how do you answer that? You go,
Well, the short answer, who's responsible for, okay, let's just say it's a product launch. So, so who's ultimately responsible for the product launch? Well, I am. Okay, but the fact that you've conveyed this message, but they've done nothing with it, at the end of the day, who's going to be responsible for a failed launch? It's going to be you. So then the fact that they didn't get the message, or they're not responding or acting in accordance with it, the end result is going to be your butt, right? So at what point in time do you need to figure out how to make sure that either they got the message, that they're acting on it or acting in accordance with it? At what point does that responsibility rest with you? Or do just simply pushing that out, is that good enough?
Right. That's,
I mean,
yeah,
I can't tell you, that is classic what you just described there, though.
it is. I get it. I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
I've told them once.
Yep. No, you own it. You own it.
You own it, man.
Yeah.
You say in this section there's a subtitle called communication gaps, and you say in misaligned organizations few success stories are shared. Communication practices and channels are inconsistent or irregularly used, and there's little consistency between leaders connecting the organization's purpose with the work being done. To help us pull that apart a little bit.
Yeah. So you've heard this term engagement, right? And how oftentimes we see employees that are fully engaged. I mean, they're working their butts off, but they're not working on the right things, right? So that's where alignment comes in. So we define alignment as engagement with purpose. So now what we've done is we've said that engaged work that you're doing needs to have purpose that's consistent with the mission and vision of the organization. And is the leader good at sewing into the very fabric of the organization the responsibility of the individual contributor to the mission? So, janitor within the organization, your job is to make sure that we have clean pathways by which we can move as quickly as we possibly can to get the work done in a safe and efficient manner. Can you see the importance of that? As you know, we are doing a lot of things in these areas. We need to make sure that they're clear, that they're clean, they're well lit, all the things that are necessary to make this a safe working environment so we don't have injuries, we don't have anything that will ultimately slow down and impede the efficiency of the work that we do. Absolutely. So it's clear at the individual, and that's why you are going to be evaluated by how clean these areas are, how well lit they are, all the things that are consistent with what it is we're trying to do. Leaders take the time to paint the picture as to what the role of responsibilities are, the expectations that come along with those, and how they will be evaluated against those things. And then measure the successes along the way. And as they're able to take and sew these things into the very fabric of the organization, that's where we get these alignment, the janitor up to the supervisor, up to the general manager, all the way up to the chairman of the board.
Yeah, again, beautiful. It's just so beautiful. I just think it's so important, that, Simon Sinek, of course, talks about know your why, but, you and I are on the same page here with about knowing your how. How does what you do? How is that reflected in the mission? How does the mission reflected through what you do? How does what you do, is your purpose bigger, than just your title of your job, regardless of what your job is? And I think, because you and I both understand, and I think a lot of people do if they will listen to you, that what happens is when people have a purpose, they're just a better worker.
That's right. That's so true, Jay. They're less apt to call in sick. They're less apt to be hanging around the water cooler, spouting negative things about the company and or its leadership. They're more apt to roll up their sleeves, work those extra hours, bring their full selves to the job. And so the degree to which that purpose that I'm espousing in the organization is consistent with who I see myself as, the degree to which those correlate at a high level, boy, you have a committed, aligned employee. And that's what we're after. We're trying to find those, and we're trying to figure out where the areas of misalignment are within the organization.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that, because I don't want to jump ahead too far, because you do talk about, though, that maybe you should hire the right people. I want to talk about something, though, because something that you wrote in this chapter really struck me hard. You you talk about the annual meeting, and you said in many an annual meeting, the presenters will discuss the success of the company, but the employees are thinking, now here's the 3 questions you have out there, or 4. Why am I here?
Right.
What does this correlate to what I do on a day-to-day basis? And should I be doing something different when I go back to work? You believe that leaders really need to be thinking about these questions up front.
If you are standing in front of an audience of employees and you're not answering those questions and making those crystal clear in that meeting, you're wasting their time. That's simple.
Yeah,
Take the time to explain why it is we've asked you to take time out of your day, time out of your week to travel to some unknown location, some undisclosed location, right? To listen to me opine on how well we're doing against our goals. Come on. I need to be able to explain why you're here.
Yeah.
And the role in which you play, so that when we want to celebrate our successes, it's not that perfunctory golf clap. It's that resounding, excitement about what it is we do, so that when we go back to work, we know what it is we're going to do differently to be even more effective at what it is we do, so that when we come back and get together, we've got something even more exciting to celebrate.
Did I tell you he was awesome? I think it started the show with that somewhere out there. Listen, the book, his name's Art Johnson. The book is The Art of Alignment, and you're listening to him here on A New Direction. Folks, Epic Physical Therapy, look, not only do they have great people, they have the most cutting edge, top of the line, advanced equipment, things like the Ultra G anti-gravity treadmills, the Normatec compression sleeves, the Game Ready. Those are just a few. All right. I love the Game Ready, by the way. It's my favorite. But you know what? They're also certified in the most comprehensive cutting edge treatments available, like blood flow restriction therapy, dry needling, cupping. And that's just a few of them. Listen, if you want to learn about how they can make you more epic, right? And you want that epic relief, epic recovery, and epic results, go to epicpt.com. That's EPICPT.com. And Linda Craft and Team Realtors for more than 35 years. That's right, more than 35 years. She's been at the top of the real estate game. And how has she done that? Well, it's been relationships. There is a reason why her first client from 1985 comes to see her today. And that was when interest rates were at 18%. You know why? Because she cultivated that relationship and continues to do so, right? And they come back. And there's a reason why her clients say that she is a legend of customer service. So listen, when you're ready to sell your home, buy your home, start with the cultivators of relationship, Linda Craft and Team Realtors. You can learn more by going to lindacraft.com. That's LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with Art Johnson and his #2 Wall Street Journal best-selling book, The Art of Alignment. Oh, a data-driven approach to lead aligned organizations. He's outstanding for sure. And listen, this is going to be one of those shows that you're going to listen to over and over and over again, because just the things that he's giving you is just going to change the way you're going to fundamentally go back to your business. All right, I'm going to move to chapter 8. Accountability. This is a huge word because I think we misunderstand what accountability is. I'm going to quote you, and you said accountability is the building willingness to take ownership of outcomes rising from one's attitudes, behaviors, and consequent choice of action. Accountability is a construct that is central to alignment, because what it speaks to is that everyone understands their roles and responsibilities in the organization. Talk to us about accountability.
This is about ownership, right? This is that idea that, hey, the buck stops with me. I have responsibility for the outcome. I am central to directionally where we're trying to go. And so one of the things that we hear, again, working with leaders across the world, is we want to instill an organization that has a culture of accountability, which is interesting, because then the question I always ask, well, how are you going to do that? Well, we're just going to start holding people accountable.
Right.
So unless you're running a paramilitary organization,
right,
that's not going to be effective. In order to really drive accountability, you have to have this thing called empowerment. which means, in essence, people are empowered to make their own decisions, make their own choices. You force decision making down, which is the right thing to do, by the way, because you get faster, better decisions as people are closer to the situation they're trying to solve. But by driving real empowerment in the organization, now I can hold you accountable. Otherwise, I'm telling you what to do. You go do it, and then I am going to hold that against you. Wait a minute, you just did what I told you to do. How can I hold that against you? Or better yet, like I said before, how can I recognize the work that you've done when all you've done is carry out what I said for you to do? So the degree to which you can push decision making down in the organization and hold folks accountable to what it is they set out to go do. Example, again, the person comes into my office, Art, can I do this? And I say, I don't know, can you? Now, of course, that's inflammatory. I get that. But in the same token, though, what I'm trying to do is push decision making down. So I said, we laughed a little bit. I said, but what options do you have? So, he listed out 4 or 5 options. Which of the 5 do you like best? What made you pick that one? What potential impediments do you see? Is there anything I can do to help you get the rocks out of the road so that you can move more smoothly? Let me know anything that I can do, if there's anything that I can do to help you in this journey to accomplish the goal that you set. That person is fully empowered. They are going to do everything they can to make sure that decision is successful. I've got full buy-in and lean into that. And now when they go do that work, we can high five, we can laugh about the success, celebrate it, and recognize that person. And guess what? They are going to be even more excited to come with new ideas. And that is going to permeate the organization. It is critical. If you're trying to create an organization of accountability, you have to first pay attention to the degree to which employees feel empowered.
It's one of those things that this book, these pillars, it just seems that one builds on top of the other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the beautiful thing that I found in this book. And I'm not ready to jump into empowerment yet. But it is so true, because you can't really have accountability without empowerment, for sure. And there is no empowerment really without accountability. It's kind of this give and take between the two. I thought you said though something really interesting that I think business people need to hold on to dearly. You'd say hire accountable people as part of your hiring practices.
Right. I'm listening. I'll tell. It's a good point, Jay. As you think about that, talk about it in the book. I talk about it when I'm speaking to groups about this. If you're looking for people that are going to be owners, that take responsibility for things, listen for ownership kinds of things when you hear a person even rolling through their resume. And as you ask questions about something that they may have failed at, how did that happen? Can you say a little bit more about that? And all I'm listening for, I'm not the fact they failed doesn't matter. Anybody's gone through life without failing, I want to see them, right? I want to see who that person is.
Yeah, me too.
But what I'm listening for is, can this person articulate what happened? But more importantly, can they share with the human side of themselves that, hey, look, we can't win them all, but what did we do in this particular situation? How do we bounce back? But more importantly, am I hearing ownership kinds of things? I made this mistake. I could have done this differently. I could have made a different choice versus, I was given a bad quota, or I was given a weak team, or I was given, all these sort of blame kinds of things. I'm listening for those that take ownership of situations, and the degree to which you can bring in people that have that sort of mentality is the cornerstone of the success of driving even a greater sense of accountability in the organization.
Yeah, we always talk, and I know you run across this. I do too. Certainly, I'm always asked things like, how do we go about hiring? And I thought that this was such a really simple measure of hiring that we just don't even talk about, is like going, well, hire accountability.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes all the sense in the world, because everybody's worried about what questions do I ask, all this other stuff. Hire accountability.
Yep. That's right. Yep. I own it. Yep. This happened because of me. And what I learned from it was this. And this is how I intend to move going forward.
Yeah. It's really interesting. An author we had on before had interviewed Coach Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick talked about one of his core of bringing in players to the Patriots was dependability, but it all filtered in accountability, that they held themselves accountable to being dependable on the field, right? That they take responsibility for doing what they did. And when you start putting these things together, you start going, well, of course, it just makes so much sense. I mean, if you just hire somebody who's accountable, right? And this leads me to another question about accountability that maybe we miss, and maybe I got it wrong, or maybe we have it wrong, is accountability and consequences. It seems that sometimes what we do is we hold people accountable, and if they don't do what they say, that we can sometimes overdo it and the consequences, and then people no longer want to be held accountable. So there seems to me there's this delicate balance of, how do we, okay, it's great that you take accountability for it, but what's going to change?
Right. So there are some leaders that are heavy-handed,
right?
And unfortunately, that can lead to displacement. But in the same token, there should be some consequence for non-performance. And so otherwise, guess what? You create a culture of non-performance. And so, but there's a delicate balance that has to be struck. If you are walking into an organization that has been beat down by a leader that's been heavy-handed, and to come in talking about how we're going to drive greater accountability within this organization, that's probably not the right approach. Right?
Right.
The right approach there is to say, all right, hey, let's understand where we've made our mistakes along the way. Let's see if we can put some guardrails up to make sure that we don't make those same mistakes again. But in the same token, let's not let that kill the creativity that we have within, so that we can continue to keep the good ideas on how we might be able to do things a little bit better going forward. So that it just, again, we go, and I'm back to leadership, Jay. I hate to do this to you.
That's good.
But here we are again with that leader. Is that leader effective at reading the tea leaves of the organization and ascertaining what the needs are at that given point in time? Is it time to be heavy-handed, or is it time to provide the balm, right? We need a little bit of healing here. And are they able to recognize that and apply the appropriate therapy?
Yeah, beautifully said, by the way. So what a great word picture you just painted there. Beautifully said. Yeah, I don't know. I think just sometimes it's really difficult for people to understand what accountability really is. Chapter 9, empowerment. And I don't want to leave this on the table.
So Jay, just to put a button on that.
Yeah,
it's about ownership. It is about taking responsibility for what you've been charged to go do. And the degree to which you feel empowered to make your own decisions, there's going to be that sense of energy and excitement around it to make sure that the outcome is successful. And so these things go hand in hand. I just want to put a button on that.
No, that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. I want to get in a little bit. Because we're running short on time, but I want to talk a little bit about empowerment here. Because, I think sometimes leaders, here we go talking about leaders again, but I think leaders struggle with empowering their people because I don't think they fully understand what it means to empower them.
So the simple answer is this, and this is a great way to measure whether or not you have empowered somebody or a part of your organization. You've met with an employee. Did that employee leave that interaction with you with more energy or less energy after you met with them? Simple way to test that.
Wow. More energy or less energy?
Right. When they left the meeting with you, did they leave that meeting with more energy or less energy? Did you zap them with energy, or did you sap them of their energy?
Wow. What a simple but powerful measurement.
There's a great book called ZAPP, Z-A-P-P, The Lightning of Empowerment. It talks to that to a degree. But that's the way that I measure empowerment.
I love that. I love, there's an elegance in simplicity, right? And that's such a simple way to measure every conversation that we have with people. And
Jay, you talked about being a farmer. One of my old bosses was a farmer, and he had a way of taking complex things and making them simple. One of the he was a powerful leader by being able to do that. So yeah, I appreciate that you see that, and I hope that I've picked up some things from him along the way. But yeah, there's just an old farmer that was exceptionally bright and able to make complex things really simple.
I love that. One of the things that you talk about empowerment, and again, it goes back to the leader, and you talked about it a little bit, but I don't think that we understand this concept of eliminating the rocks in the road.
Yeah. So that as a leader is how do we make the organization easier? How do we make things more efficient for the organization to flourish? So one of the things that I've done when I've worked with teams is I'll say, all right, what are the things that are standing in the way of your success? What things does the organization do to make things difficult for you? And as they list those things out, Jay, and this is no exaggeration, they come with 10 of them, right? 5 of them we can draw a line through immediately. We're done doing this. We're done doing that. 5 things. So we've literally cut half of the issues that stand in their way of progress of them getting their work done in an efficient manner. We've taken those things off the table altogether. And it's powerful. The energy that comes with that is immeasurable.
That's beautiful.
Rocks out of the road.
We've been on an hour. So fast. Man, it has gone so fast. You have been amazing. I knew you were going to be, because I've listened to you and I've read you completely, and I knew you were going to be amazing. But listen, the show's called A New Direction. We try to help people find a new direction in leadership and success. And based on your book, if you could leave the listener with a new direction based on the art of alignment, what would be the new direction you would leave them?
I would say to measure where the organization is relative to alignment, because in doing that, you also figure out where the areas of misalignment are, and they become actionable.
Beautiful. His name is Art Johnson. The book is The Art of Alignment, available bookstores everywhere. #2 Wall Street Journal bestselling book and author. Folks, you know what I say to you every week. Here it is. Listen, you are in control of 2 things, your attitude and your effort, regardless of what your circumstances are. It is not always easy, but you are in control. Take control of those 2 things, because when you do, it can change the world around you. I am going to be back next week with another great guest, another great book. It's going to be another great show. And as I say to you every week, shalom, everyone.